Yes. Good morning, all of you, and we'll move on to the next topic, sources. Okay. So, being familiar with the characteristics of the water and how to estimate the population in a particular city. Now, you have to identify the source. Okay. For to meet out your water demand, you have to identify the source in the locality. Okay. We'll see something on different sources of water. Okay. Yes. Yeah. This has been mentioned. After estimating the requirement for the proposed water supply scheme, the planners of the scheme must go in search of water sources. Thereby, it is possible to calculate or supply the required amount of water. So please make a note on these 2 points. Okay, number one is the requirement. You have to be familiar, and second one is you have to estimate the future projection because water supply schemes are designed for a futuristic population of almost 25 years. Then, being familiar with this data, you can identify the sources which is nearby. That something is important. You have to understand the water sources nearby, maybe either surface water sources or groundwater sources. Okay, to meet out the city requirements. City requirements. Okay. Yes. If the water supplies of a particular source or source of water chosen in the vicinity of the area are not sufficient to meet out the demand, please make a note on. It's not meet out the demand, then becomes imperative upon the planners to search some other distant sources to make arrangements for drinking the water from the source. So please make a note. If the water source is nearby, you need not worry about. If the water sources is not nearby, it is somewhat very difficult to meet out the demand. The famous example you would have seen in Chennai, if it is in a drought condition, Chennai normally depends on the water, predominantly groundwater and also surface water sources. Okay, the two lakes you would have come across in Chennai city, and it will have a water for throughout the year. If it is anything on the water scarcity or in the during drought season, and you would also notice, I also notice some situations, and people may bring water from too far cities through train wagons. Okay, they may also transport water through rails or one situations I heard something I think 3 years before, and they are in the positions to treat water which is already stored in quarries. Okay, after mining of stones, and the water rainwater has been stored in there, and people have taken out the options to treat the water and to supply to the Chennai city to meet out the demand. So that's what is something is important. Okay, sources, identification of sources is very important to meet out the demand, water demand for a particular city. And if it is sources is not there, it is something like this very expensive process. Okay, so either you have to bring the water from the distant sources or you have to find out other alternates. Other alternates you would have come across. One alternate is for a Chennai city, it is desalination. Or some cities is they may also transport a lot of water from nearby cities to the next city by road transportation or rail transportation or something. Okay, that points you have to remember. Okay, so these are the various sources of water and surface water sources and subsurface water sources. You can classify into surface water sources, which includes pond and lake, streams and rivers, storage reservoirs, and ocean. Okay, and ocean normally or seawater is not been used extensively for a major water supply systems. If it is anything on the shortage of demand, you can use it, but not something similar to the Arabian countries what they do. They may depend wholly with the seawater desalination, but Indian situations is not like that. Okay, some uh, they may also supplement water along with the major water supply systems. Okay, yes. Subsurface is the below the ground, and you would have also heard about like the terms spring, infiltration galleries, infiltration wells, and well and also tube wells. Okay, so let me explain here itself what are the different sources. Ponds and lakes are very similar in condition, but ponds are very small structures and lakes are bigger in size. That's the only difference. Both are same. Okay, ponds and all in the rural areas you would have heard about. Lakes in cities. Okay, because the water storage capacities somewhat is very high than that of ponds. Okay, and water quality also something similar with respect to pond and also like the lake, because both the systems will depend on a natural runoff. Okay, after rainfall and runoff will be collected in ponds and also lakes that can be subsequently used for water supply systems. Okay, streams and also rivers you would have come across. Streams are very smaller compared to river system, and it is always with flow of water. And those who are in North India and in Trichy, we depend on river water supply systems. Okay, river water. We have a river Kaveri, and from there they tap water using some sort of either infiltration wells or infiltration galleries somewhere in North India. Okay, river water tapping systems. Okay, storage reservoirs is very similarly like a dam structures. And last one is about ocean or from a sea. Okay, yes. Subsurface is, and the rainfall falls onto the ground, and portion of the water will be percolated or infiltrated through the subsurface soil. Okay, so that can be taken through a spring, and those who are in North India, you would have familiar with springs, infiltration galleries. Okay, so river may be somewhere here, and which may have a lot of water. Okay, and it is somewhat difficult to have an infiltration well inside the river. Okay, I think if you are familiar in river Kaveri, you would have seen a lot of infiltration wells inside the river where the water flow is very, very small. But you cannot have these sort of structures in river, say example, Ganga and river Brahmaputra, because where the water will be very, very all the time, perennial rivers, all the time you have a lot of water with the velocity or sometimes with the condition of the quality. So what they do, they may also create galleries outside your say example river, and water can be fetched through. Okay, so infiltration, anyway we'll be discussing in detail, and infiltration wells inside your say example river bed or outside the river bed. Okay, those who are familiar in Ganga basin, you would have also seen a lot of infiltration or galleries along the bank of river Ganga. Okay, and other perennial rivers as well. And wells and also tube wells is very common. Open well also you would have seen, and tube well also you would have seen in your household level. Okay, so these are the some of the sources. Okay, so our part is not sources identification, but quality of water in respective surface water and subsurface sources is very important. Is it okay? I don't
Yes, sir.
know. In the class, part of them may be dependent with surface water, and part of the people may be dependent with, say, example, the surface or groundwater sources. And surface water sources may not be unique in quality, but groundwater may be sometimes unique in quality, and you may also feel like water is completely with lot of taste. Those who are experienced with groundwater, they may not look, they may not comfortable with surface water, and those who are familiar with surface water, and they may not comfortable with the surface water, subsurface water or groundwater. They feel like some taste is there in the water. Okay, some depending upon your situation. Okay, yeah. So before going into a system, then you have to be familiar with hydrological cycle. Hydrological cycle. Okay, it is very simple. How the movement of water above, on, and below the Earth surface. Okay, that you can remember simply. The hydrological cycle describes the constant movement of water above, on, and below the Earth surface. How the movement, and this is very simple. You would have seen in these sort of cycles in your school levels itself. But the technically you have to also remember some terms. Okay, so the cyclone operates across all scales from the global to a smaller stream catchment and involves the movement of water along with these concepts: evapotranspiration and precipitation, surface runoff, subsurface flow, and groundwater both. Okay, so water will be in all water sources like all ponds, rivers, and ocean, and other water sources. And because of the sunlight or sun's intensity, water will be getting evaporated and condensed further. It will come back again as a rain. The rain may fall onto a soil. Some of the water will be penetrated or infiltrated through the soil, and that you can claim to be as is groundwater. And water will be stored in the surface sources like lakes and also reservoirs. You can call it as surface water sources. Okay, that's very common. So this is a movement of water inside the environment, inside the atmosphere, again back to the soil, that you can call it as a cycle. Okay, so precipitation is very common because of the condensation of water vapors. You can simply call it as rain, and heavy rain. You'd also see a lot of runoff, surface runoff. Water will be carried from high level areas to a low lying areas, and water will be stagnated. Okay, or immediately after the rain, you may not feel any water will be stagnated in a sandy region. It will be percolated through the soil, percolated or infiltrated through the soil. Okay, surface runoff you are familiar with, and evapotranspirations, because the plants in the soil will also take up a small amount of water, and the water will be liberated through their system, either through leaves or stems. That you can call it as evapotranspiration. and water will be penetrated through the soil, that you can call it as subsurface flow, below the soil, subsurface flow. And finally, it will end up with the groundwater's pathways. Groundwater also may have a flow which will move one direction to other direction. Is it okay? So these are the technical components you have to remember. It will start with precipitation, surface runoff, evapotranspiration, subsurface flow, and groundwater pathways. Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So this has been explained in these following slides. The water is evaporated from the land, ocean, and vegetation. So from the land, soil moisture, ocean from the salt water, and from vegetation, that is evapotranspiration. So it will move to atmosphere using the radiant energy from the sun, and it is recycled back in the form of rain or snow. So different forms of precipitation also you would have seen. Okay, recycled again back to the earth in the form of rain and snow. Okay, yes. When the moisture from the atmosphere falls into the earth surface, it becomes subdivided into different interconnected pathways. Please make a note on. So water will be in a surface or subsurface. It is getting evaporated, taken to the atmosphere, again brings back as a precipitation or snow again back to the ground. Okay, so this can be divided into different interconnected pathways. Okay, so number one, the precipitation that excluding the snow as well as hail. Okay, wet vegetation directly enters into a surface water bodies and begin to infiltrate into the ground to replenish the soil moisture. So please make a note on the first concept is precipitation. Okay, precipitation excludes the snow formation and the hail and wets the vegetation, directly enters in the surface water bodies because of runoff, or begins to infiltrate into the ground to replenish your soil moisture. Okay, this is the definition for what is precipitation. Okay, the second concept is excess water percolates to the zone of saturation or groundwater, from where it moves downward and laterally to sites of groundwater discharge. Please make a note on. Okay, so it will move further and it will also move to the zone of saturation or the groundwater, and you can call it as groundwater discharge. Okay, so the rate of infiltration into the ground depends on with the following factors. Number one, land use pattern and characteristic of the soil, and what is the duration of your precipitation and intensity of rainfall. Okay, that's something is important, because if the soil is too porous, and infiltration will be more. If the soil is more content with clay and water will be stagnated, it will not allow the water to penetrate inside your soil or inside your subsurface system. Okay, so depending upon the land use pattern, depending upon the soil characteristics, and depending upon your duration of the rainfall and intensity of the rainfall, thus rate of infiltration varies. Okay, the factors which influence your infiltration, that's something is important. This point is important. Okay, okay. Now remember, there could be a mass balance. Okay, if the rate of precipitation exceeds the rate of infiltration, it leads to a overland flow. Please make a note on what definition for overland flow. Precipitation exceeds the rate of infiltration, this leads to a overland flow. So thus water reaching streams both by surface runoff and by groundwater discharge eventually moves to the sea, where it is again evaporated to again back to the atmosphere. That cycle you can call it as hydrological cycle. So please remember the terms what you have discussed so far. What is precipitation and what is this groundwater, and what are the factors which influence your infiltration rate, what is overland flow, and excess water, excess overland also, excess flow also, and there is this no place to store. There is this land may not have a capacity to infiltrate all the water, so water again directly enters into the sea, and C2 again to the atmosphere, back to again to a soil. So this cycle goes on, that you can simply remember as hydrological cycle. Okay, so it has been explained in this layout. You may get different layout or different cycles. You can remember the technical terms. Okay, evaporation. Okay, and condensation. Okay, and what is advection, and what is precipitation, and what is this accumulation, what is this surface runoff, and what is this plant uptake or evapotranspiration, and what is infiltration, and what is this volcanic stream. So this slide is very important. You can read out or look into the definition of each and every item. Okay, so I'm not going to detail about evaporation is because of sunlight, water vapors is getting evaporated, and condensation is about temperature difference between the lifted air and also the air at least there, thereby it will condense each other. And this air movement in the atmosphere, you can call it as advection. And if the condensation is more and hot air cools, condense, it will come down as a precipitation, come down as a say example rain, that you can call it as a simple precipitation process. And then it will falls on the ground, that you can call it as if accumulation is something different. Okay, falls on, it condense or it will freeze out further, thereby accumulation of some kind of ice. Okay, snow and ice accumulate, later melting back into a liquid water or turning into vapor. So that's the recent incident in Uttarakhand. You would have also familiar. Okay, sudden fall of the glaciers into a river and ended into a big flood kind of a thing in a short period. Okay, so accumulation. Okay, it will become something like a snow, and the surface runoff water falls onto the ground and flows onto a land, that you can call it a surface runoff. And there could be a possible uptake of these water by the plants again to the atmosphere. You can call it as evapotranspiration. And water, the soil is porous, and it will also infiltrate further or percolates further into a subsurface system, that you can call it as either infiltration or percolation or subsurface flow, or you can call it as simply as aquifer, or you can simply call it as this water table, or you can remember simply the concept called seepage, or you can simply remember as water in a spring or well. So these are some of the concepts you can remember. And the last one is about volcanic stream at the bottom of your soil, the land, or you can say simply as hot springs, geysers, and other related features. Okay, so this you can understand better what is the hydrological cycle. Okay, so write or draw a hydrological cycle with a lot of concept notes. That is enough for the examination point of view. Okay, yes. Still further for your better understanding, what is precipitation, and water will be stored in impounded areas, that you can call it as either lake, and the plant will take out as uh, 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 take out the moisture or water and leave out to the atmosphere in terms of transpiration. And transpiration is again a moisture content will be taken through the atmosphere. Okay, evaporation is by because of sun activity. And now you just imagine is lighter air and colder air, that thereby the condensation mechanisms may happen and falls on as a precipitate. Okay, and whatever it is getting into a soil, that you can call it as infiltration, and also the groundwater flow. So groundwater overflow, again it is again mixed with your ocean or sea. Is it okay?
Okay.
Yeah, so this is just remember a simple cycle diagram, hydrological cycle diagram. Okay, so I am not going to detail about one by one. Any definitions for your basic understanding level, just remember and have it for examination point of view. Okay, so we'll now concentrate or discuss on precipitation. What is precipitation? What are the different types of precipitation? Okay, so water evaporates from water surfaces like a stream, river, ocean, pond, and also from the land, soil moisture, and plants. Please remember these terms: stream, river, ocean, pond, and also from the land. The land that you can call it as simply soil moisture. Okay, and from plants, that is this evapotranspiration in the form of water vapor. Okay, the water vapor gets condensed in the atmosphere and behave like a gas. Okay, behave like a gas. As evaporation continues, the amount of atmospheric vapor goes on increasing, and the space can hold only a certain amount of water vapor in the presence of a solid or a liquid surface. A stage is reached when any further addition of vapor will get condensed onto a surfaces. Please make a note on. It's something similar to a mass balance. Okay, so water evaporates, goes into the atmosphere. Atmosphere may have a capability to fix some amount of water vapor. If it is more than that, automatically it comes down as a precipitation. Okay, yeah. So the water vapor get condensed in different forms, like mist you would have come across it, or otherwise this is called rain or hail or snow or sleet. So these are the different forms of precipitations. Okay, so the evaporated water from the surfaces of stream, river, sea, pond, wet surfaces, trees, and plants again return to the earth by the condensation in the form of rain, hail, dew, sleet is called as precipitation. So the definition for what is precipitation? Okay, so water get evaporated from a subsurface, that is from soil and also plant into the atmosphere, and because of the condensation, it will come back again to a earth in the form of rain, hail, dew, sleet. That process is known as precipitation. That known as is precipitation. Okay, so this you would have experienced in different forms of precipitation. Dew is very common, and mist you would have seen in normal climates. Fog also you would have seen in North India. Rain is very common, and hail. Okay, because instead of rain droplets, you would have also seen like ice. Say example, either the solids, ice solids also falls down from the atmosphere. That you can call it as hail, or it is very common is snow. So these are the different forms, and normally in the different parts of the state or country, you may have a different precipitation pattern. Okay, yes. Okay, so those who are nearby hilly areas is very common to see a dew, mist, and also fog. Okay, those who are in a tropical region, you would have experienced rain, lighter rain, heavier rain, and extreme rain conditions also would have seen. And some people of some specific locations, you would have also seen hail, or some places where the condensation process is very heavy or high. You could also feel ice also may fall down from the atmosphere. Okay, hail and snow. It is very common in the northern parts of the country, in like India. You may get a lot of snow formation. Okay, so especially the mountainous regions. Like now in North India, especially on the Himalayan regions, is very common snow. Some states of India like Uttarakhand and even Kashmir, okay, Jammu and Kashmir and other places, you could also feel like a lot of snow. Okay, yes. And runoff, the definition. So the next definition is runoff. After precipitation, portion of water flows over the ground and in the form of river, stream, and some water flows towards lake and also pond. Water collection, that you can call simply is runoff, and portion of water precipitates, or portion of precipitation percolates or infiltrates in the ground, and it is stored in the form of subsoil or groundwater. That's the next definition. You can call it as infiltration. A runoff is very simple. That is just simply you can call it as overland flow directly onto a surface. Okay, immediately after the rain, that you can call it as a runoff. Okay, there is no runoff storage areas, and you can call it as simply as a flood. Those who are familiar in Chennai, and people may typically call it as just a flood. That is not a flood, actually, it's just a runoff. There is no place to store, and water will be on the ground. Okay, that is this runoff. And infiltration is if the soil have a capability to allow the water to percolate. Okay, that's again a storage that will be stored in the form of subsoil. Okay, it will not go to the level of groundwater, but it will be stored in the soil. That will be good for your plantation, or there could be a possibility to store the water in the ground, below the ground, or in a water table that you would have seen. Okay, immediately after the train, people used to say that my water table as is raised. That is because of this infiltration capabilities. Okay, yes. And evaporation, again, some portion of water it's already in the lakes, rivers, and reservoirs and wet surfaces because of the sun's heat gain into a vapor, that you can call it as evaporation, and evapotranspiration is by plant. Okay, the roots of the plant takes up some quantity of water from the ground, and sometimes some portion of the water is being utilized by the plant, and the excess portion will be evaporated through the pores inside your leaves, again back to the atmosphere. That you can call it as simply evapotranspiration. Evapotranspiration. Okay, so please remember these terms are important. Okay, so this is again for your better understanding. Evaporation, evapotranspiration, and evaporation from the open sources, and what is this, precipitation, and what is surface runoff, what is infiltration, and what is the subsurface flow, and what is your groundwater recharge. So this the one slide is enough to understand better what are the different forms of the water immediately after the precipitation, how it will go or how it have a mass balance. Is it okay? Is it fine?
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So these are the different kinds of precipitation. Please remember this something is important for your better understanding. These are the different kinds of precipitation. Okay. Number one, cyclonic precipitation, orographic precipitation, and convectional precipitation. Okay. It's very common. If you turn on the news in the televisions, and people may say that there could be a local circulation of wind, and the places of, say example, near seashore or in the land, you may get 3 days or 4 days of rain. Or they may also simply, like they say, atmosphere is very say example, hot atmosphere because of these circulations, local circulation of wind or something. Or those who are familiar to the nearby mountainous region, there could be a possibilities of rain. Okay, those who are in the downwind direction and also upwind direction. Upwind direction, there could not be a possibilities of rain, and downwind directions, you may get a lot of rain because of some obstructions, and the the movement of hot air and also the cold air mixes together. Thereby, there you could get a lot of convectional precipitations. Okay, that is being explained in the following slides. Okay, cyclonic precipitation and is caused by lifting of an air mass due to pressure difference. It's very simple. Please make a note on what is cyclonic precipitations. Tamil Nadu, they may get a lot of water, a lot of rain. That is because of cyclonic precipitation. Okay, cyclonic precipitation is caused by lifting of an air mass due to pressure difference. Imagine now a situation: a low pressure occurs in an area. What will happen? Air from the higher pressure area moves faster. Okay, the second point, the low pressure occurs in an area, air will flow horizontally from the surrounding area, causing the lighter air, causing the air in the lower pressure area to lift. It's very simple. And you have one area is lower pressure, other area is higher pressure, and if it is a low pressure difference, what will happen? The air moves from the higher pressure areas to lower pressure area to fill the gap, and in that you may get a hot air, and because of this movement of the air, hot air will be lifted up. That is something is important. So please make a note on, because of this lifting, there could be a precipitation. Okay, hot air lifts up, and you have a when you have a cold air in the atmosphere, thereby some precipitation may happen. So the precipitation that results is called as non-frontal cyclonic precipitation. Please make a note on. These are some technical terms you remember very in a clarity way. Okay, non-frontal cyclonic precipitation. Okay, and if one air mass lifts over the another air mass, the precipitation is called as frontal cyclonic precipitation. Please make a note on. This is second one. What is non-frontal? You have to be familiar. And what is a frontal cyclonic precipitation? Cyclonic precipitation. Okay. Yes. The boundary in between two individual air masses of different temperature and density is known as front or frontal surface. Please make a note on. This is the third definition. Okay. The definitions are important in the examination point of view. It is being asked in MCQs. Okay. What is non-frontal and what is this frontal cyclonic precipitation, and what is the boundary in between two air masses are called as air masses of different temperature and different densities are known as front surface or frontal surface. Okay, and because of this large whirling mass of air at the center of which the parametric pressure is very low, that is known as cyclone. So please read the definition of what is cyclone. Okay, so now imagine two different densities of air. One is lower pressure, another is about higher pressure, and because of higher pressure, because of this situation, the air moves from the higher pressure area to a lower pressure area, and hot air normally moves up condensed, and thereby you may get a precipitation that is called as frontal cyclonic precipitation. Okay, and the boundary in between two air masses of different densities is called as frontal surface. Okay, and because of this movement of air, and you may get a very big or larger whirling mass of air, and the center of the center mass of the air is very with a low pressure, that is known as cyclone. That is known as cyclone. Okay, so this is what I explained. And pressure difference, normally lower pressure in the inland area and the high pressure in some air. The air flows from high pressure area into low pressure area, and because of that, this lifts the say example the lighter air to move up thereby the condensation may happen because of this condensation, and you may get a precipitation. That precipitation you can simply call it as cyclonic precipitation. Okay, so please remember, cyclonic precipitation is very common in the southern part of India, especially in Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, and some parts of Karnataka as well. You may get a cyclonic precipitation, cyclonic precipitations. Okay, yes. Okay, so this I have explained to you. The air rushes horizontally into the lower pressure area into a whirling mass because of the rotary motion of the earth about its own axis. The cyclone is very large mass of air ranging from 800 to 1600 kilometers diameter and moving with a velocity of 50 kilometer per hour. So please remember that you would have seen very recent cyclones in Tamil Nadu and some part of Andhra and West Bengal also would have seen. Okay, so people have experienced. Normally, the meteorological station, they may announce like the depressions are located almost is 1,500 meters, 1,500 kilometers away from a ocean or something, and the diameter is almost 800 to 1,000 kilometer range. It will also move or stand in one particular place. Okay, so normally they may say this is near to the Chennai, near to West Bengal, or near to, say example, like some cities in Andhra Pradesh. It will also move very faster with a velocity of 50, 60, and they'll also predict in what range or what time it will cross or it will hit or dissipate with respect to time. They may also say like 4 days, 5 days, and because of that, you may get a lot of rain. Okay, yes. So the central portion of the cyclone, where the pressure is low, which will act as a chimney through which the air gets lifted, expands, cool, and finally condensed. That will cause a lot of precipitation. So please make a note on these points are very important. Okay, cyclonic precipitations can occur in the form of drizzle or intermittent rain and also steady rain. You would have experienced in during cyclonic precipitations, and you may get a very frequent the warnings as well as informations from meteorological department. They may get continuous rain, something like a drizzle, or you may get intermittent rain, or they may say also steady rain. Okay, and if the precipitation is caused by a cold front, it is very intense and the short duration, while that caused by a warm front is more continuous. Okay, third possibility is about occluded front. Occluded front occurs when a cold front overtakes the warm front, and the precipitation pattern is the combination of both cold and also warmer frontal distributions. And cold front is that in which the warm air replaces the cold air, and wherein the warm front, in case of it is its opposite. So please remember frontal, non-frontal, and occluded frontal precipitation. It's very simple because of your the pressure difference like inside the city area and also outside. The air moves from faster from the high pressure area into a low pressure area. The lighter air moves up or lifts up to the atmosphere. Condensation takes place, and because of that, you may get a continuous rainfall, or you may get an intermittent rainfall that you can simply call it as like cyclonic precipitations. Okay, yes. Second one is about the convective precipitation. It's very simple. Convective precipitation is due to the upward movement of air that is warmer than the surrounding. It's very simple. Okay, so there you would have experienced rain may occur in a particular area for a particular time period. Okay, so convective precipitation is due to the upward movement of air that is warmer than its surrounding. So generally, the kind of precipitation occurs in tropic climates where on a hot day, the ground surface gets heated unequally, causing the warmer air to lift up as colder air comes into contact. So the vertical air currents develop tremendous velocities and sometimes very hazard to aircrafts as well. That you would have seen sometimes is while you are traveling in uh, like uh, the aircrafts, and you may also get a sudden like announcement from the pilots, and there could be a lot of converting these sort of local turbulences, and you may also feel like a lot of disturbances in your comfort level. Sometimes they may announce like that. This is only on local. So once you cross that level, automatically the atmosphere will become something similar. Okay. So because of this movement, there could be a precipitation, and thereby uh, it may have some showers of high intensity for a very short duration. You may get a intensity of rain, but maybe of 5 minutes or 10 minutes with the high intensity. So these sort of precipitation you can call it as convective precipitation. Is very simple. Please remember, it's only the upward movement of the air that is warmer than its surroundings contents. You may get a like precipitation very suddenly. Okay, very short duration with a high intensity of rainfall. Okay, that is just called as convective precipitation. Okay, this is very simple. So this you would have seen. Okay, so while you are traveling in a highway, you could also feel like some areas you may get a rain, and immediately after a kilometer you may not get a rain at all. So this sort of situations is because of convective precipitations. Okay, and if you are traveling from Trichy, you may get a rain, but near Tuakudu you may not get a rain. That is because of this sort of situations. Okay, convective precipitation. Okay, yes. Third one is about orographic precipitation, and here also again air movement may take place and which strikes the natural topographic barriers like mountains, and further it cannot move forward. It rises up and causes condensation and precipitation. Those who are familiar in mountainous regions like this, you may get a rainfall very immediate. Okay, because the lighter air moves fast and it hits on to the mountain and it may not move further, condense, and you may get a rain immediate. That's what now it has been decided. Now it is been given, and those who are like in a windward direction, and you may get a lot of rain, and those who are in the leeward direction, that you may not get a rain, very little rainfall. Okay, so thereby these sort of situation you can call it as orographic precipitation. It's very simple. You can remember simple with this diagram. Lighter air will move up, okay, or heated air will move up, which may not pretend to go upper. Furthermore, it hits on to the natural, say example, natural topographic barriers like mountains, thereby condense. It will come back as a rain. Come back as a rain. So this I will call it as windward direction. This is on leeward direction. Windward direction may get a lot of water, and leeward directions you may not get any water at all. And you would have also experienced these sort of situations in some parts of near mountainous regions. So these are orographic precipitations. Okay, yes. So this is what we explained. Number one, cyclonic precipitation. Second one is about orographic precipitation and also like conventional precipitation. Is it okay?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, cyclonic is important and orographic is important and convectional is important. Okay, and cyclonic, those who are nearby the seashore is very common, cyclonic precipitation, and those who are nearby mountains, and this is orographic precipitation is very important. And convectional is this, some areas they may get a water because of the situation, because of warmer air and also like immediate condensation of water vapors. There could be a convectional rainfall. Okay, so this is very continuous. Okay, it may extend to minimum 5 days, 10 days, 6 days. Okay, but Richie has experienced almost one and a half months is continuous rain because of sequential cyclonic formations in this year. Okay, almost is end of November, December, continuous rainfall. That is because of cyclonic precipitation. Orographic, those who are nearby the mountainous regions would have experienced. This side is completely on like you may get continuous water because of rainfall, and this portion is completely on drought because of this situation, orographic precipitation. And convectional also like very frequent because of temperature difference. Okay, yes, yeah. So being familiar with the precipitation, now we can define like different water sources. Please look into the diagram very in a clarity way. You can classify into surface sources and subsurface sources. Is my slide very clear, Rashwant? You can able to view that? Fonts are small, or you can able to view? It's okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, surface and subsurface sources. Surface sources are classified into river, streams, lakes, ponds, and impounded reservoirs. And subsurface sources is spring, well, and infiltration galleries. And wells can be with artesian wells, dug wells, tube wells, and also infiltration galleries. And tube wells again classified into shallow well and deep wells. Okay, deep wells. Okay, anyway, this we are not going to discuss now, but we'll see later. Okay, so water from a subsurface sources and or water from a subsurface sources can be like taken through intake towers. Okay, so after sources, we'll be discussing on how to fetch the water from our sources. So that we'll be discussing in detail with intake towers. And from the intake towers, water will be taken through big conduits or pipelines to a treatment plant, treat the water and distribute to the consumers. Okay, this is not necessary now, but we'll be discussing these are in details. Okay, surface sources and subsurface sources. Surface sources, which includes river, lake, pond, and impounded reservoirs. Impounded reservoirs are dams. Okay, and subsurface sources are spring, well, and infiltration galleries. And the wells are again artesian wells, dug well, tube well, and infiltration wells. And tube wells, based on your depth, you can have shallow well and also deep well. Okay, so this we are going to discuss in detail. Number one, yeah, this what pond, lake, stream, river, impounded reservoir, and ocean we are not going to discuss because it is not being used extensively for a complete water supply source. Okay, if it is anything on the like a requirement, you can tap water from ocean, have a desalination plant, and supply to the consumer. Okay, and the groundwater sources are springs, infiltration galleries, infiltration wells, and tube wells. So we'll discuss these now: ponds, lakes, streams, and also river. Okay, these are some self-explanatory contents. You can also read it by yourself. The ponds, these are natural and large size depressions formed within the surface of the earth. When gets filled up with water is known as a pond or lake. It's very simple. If it is any low-lying area, runoff water will be collected, then you can climb to be like either pond or lake. The difference is a pond and lake is only with respect to size. The size is small, you can call it as a pond. If its size is too big, you can call it as a lake. So one best example of lake, and those who are familiar in Ooty and Kodaikanal, you would have seen lakes, big lakes. Those who are familiar in Hyderabad, Hussain Sagar Lake would have familiar. Those who are familiar in Jammu and Kashmir, Dal Lake, very very big in size, very very big in size. Okay, and if the size of the depression is comparatively small, that is down to be pond, and if it is very larger, that you can call it as lake. Okay, and the source of water for these ponds and lagoons, ponds and lakes are surface runoff from the catchment area. So please remember, this is only surface runoff. If it is heavy rain, and you may get the water in the ponds or the lakes. So people may ask if it is heavy rainfall, and you may get the water directly to a lake. Lakes are interconnected or ponds are interconnected. Thereby, you can claim that all the waters is completely been like stored in the surface water sources. Okay, so now in Government of Tamil Nadu, you would have seen, and they had initiatives like dredging of lakes and also ponds. Thereby, the water storage capacity can be improved. You may not use it directly for drinking water, but you can also augment the groundwater by natural infiltration. Okay, so the source of water to the lake and streams are only surface runoff. Please make a note on surface runoff from the catchment area, and sometimes water also will be collected in the ponds and also like lakes through spring. Okay, you may just you can also look into what is spring. Okay, so underground water through some springs, continuous input of water to the lake and the pond systems other than surface runoff. Thereby you may get continuous water in ponds and also lake system. Okay, yes. So lake you would have seen, that's what I told you, is this again a natural depression with very wider, okay, larger, or you can say simply bigger, and ponds are very smaller water holding capacities, or very very small water holding ponds, very small water holding ponds. Okay, yes. And if you see the quality of water, and like quality of water in the lake is very very good, very very good, generally good, does not need any purification. I don't know how many of you familiar if they fetch water from a lake and also from a pond, and they do some sort of treatment in their household activities. They may take a fabric or what cloth, and from that they'll filter the water and they'll use directly. Okay, in the case of surface water, and predominant compositions are only solids, suspended solids, and can be easily removed by simple filter mechanism. That's what they do in rural areas. You would have also noticed. Okay, yes. And if it is any solids in the lake or water, a lake or pond, okay, there could be a possibility of one concept called self purification. Okay, so water from a runoff will be collected in a pond. Okay, if there is lot of suspended matter, and these suspended solids is settled down at the bottom because of sedimentation action. That is number one, sedimentation action. The solids settle at the bottom by themselves. Sedimentation. Then bleaching of color because of sunlight exposure, and you may also feel initially maybe dark immediately after the rainfall. If you see the lake or pond, maybe turbid in color, and after a month you may also feel like a clean water, bleaching of color, and removal of bacteria makes the lake water very purer and also better. Okay, and on the other hand, there is a possibility of a lot of algal growth and weed growth and also vegetable growth, and which creates a lot of bad smell, taste, and also water. So predominantly, if you allow the wastewater or any nutrients in the water bodies like lakes and ponds, automatically enriches the nutrient content. Normally, because of the enrichment, you may get a lot of algal growth that you can call it as simply a eutrophication of lakes. Those who are familiar in Kerala or those who are familiar in the pond systems or lake systems, the water turns to be always is in green color. That's what I mentioned. It's a green color. That is because of suspended algae. Because of enrichment of nutrients, and you may get a lot of algal growth. Okay. Yes. And another thing is about wave action, because it's larger water bodies, and there could be a, large amount of wave action, which may also like create your water turbid near the shore. That is also one important fact. And the larger lakes, and whatever you dispose or whatever you add it, and these quantities is very smaller than that of this quantity. Thereby, you need not much worry about your quality, because it may have a concept called dilution and second concept called self purification. Please remember, if you that's what now people have allowed treated wastewater into a river. Okay, comparatively with the river water flow, and whatever you discharge is very low in quantity, and larger quantity and also smaller quantity of your contaminants get it mixed, thereby dilution happens, and river or lake or pond may have some sort of self purifications mechanisms. Because of that, this water also getting polished. Okay, yeah. And
Sir,
lake, it is claimed to be a good water, but even in Dal
sir,
Lake, which is in the highest elevation, and people have found a lot of these algal growth. And I don't know how many of you visited Dal Lake and Husain Lake, and you would have also seen a lot of these weed developments because of this wastewater or nutrient addition into the lake water bodies. Okay, this is very common in Hyderabad and Dal lakes, and people have experienced, because you may get a lot of board houses, board houses, and you can also stay back, and water or wastewater from board houses is being discharged into the lakes, and wastewater again contains a lot of nitrogen as well as phosphorus. Detergents also being mixed with your water and enriches the nutrient content. Obviously, it will also develop a lot of, as example, algal growth, which turned to be again highly polluted. Okay, Dal and also Guzain Lagar Lake, and most of the lakes in or backwaters in Kerala as well. Okay, may get a lot of algal growth. Okay, yes.
hello,
And
sir.
this is what I told you. Dal Lake, even you may get a lot of wastewater addition into the lakes, which further turn into eutrophicated lakes. Eutrophication, enrichment of nutrients in the water bodies, like ponds and also lakes, and you may get a lot of problems. Okay, yes, yeah. Okay, so quantity again depends on your catchment area and also annual rainfall and also geological formation.
Hello, sir.
And you can also supply water to small town to hilly areas. Yeah. So this I'll stop here, and you just have a glance with surface water sources. And one more class we'll discuss on other sources and groundwater, and we'll finish or complete the third portion. Yeah. So any clarifications here? Okay, Rashwant, we'll see one more class. We'll finish it up this surface, and we had to also discuss the assessment number 1 And as per the course plan, it is in the 4th week of February. So we'll also discuss maybe next week, or we'll plan it on 1st week of March. We'll discuss later.
Okay.
Okay, Rashwant.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir.